back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. This time we've got Vaun Festus. Is that right? Festus?
Festus.
Vaun, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to meet you and talk to you.
Excellent to have you on. You're a longtime subscriber. Well, a lurker in the chat, I'd say, like most people are in my chat, which I appreciate. And I recently found out that you're the Vaun Festus who also appeared in DPA's open mic. So I had heard of you before, I just never made the connection, you know? So it's good to have you here. You want to tell people a bit about yourself and who you are and what you kind of have experience in, to put it lightly?
Yeah, I live in the United States, in Kentucky, in Louisville, which is famous for Breonna Taylor and BLM and all the riots. It was one of those hot spots. I served in the U.S. Army for 8 years. I did 2 years active duty, and then I did 6 years in the National Guard. When I was on active duty, I was a 19 kilo on the M1 tank. And then when I was in the National Guard...
What does 19 kilo mean for us non-military folk?
It's just armor crewmen, and it's specific to the M1. And then like 19 Delta was like a Cav Scout, so those would be guys that would be on Bradleys.
Okay, so like you're the machine gunner on top, basically? Or like you're the loader?
On the M1, like when you first get on, you know, you're enlisted and you're junior. So, you know, you start out in the loader position, and then when you get some rank and experience, you know, you can move to the driver's position generally. And then the gunner is the, you know, like second senior, and then the commander. And then on a tank with just enlisted guys, you know, if you were in long enough, you could actually work your way around to where you would eventually be a sergeant NCO, and you would have your own tank. But, you know, like for me, when I got out, you know, I was basically trained as a basic tanker. So I had, you know, knowledge of all the stations, but not like, I wouldn't say I was proficient or nothing. Like you could do it, but it's not like you have it all memorized. So when you get to your unit, they make you a loader, the loader, which is the easiest job. And you're like the monkey, you do all the shit work.
Yeah.
And then, you know, after a while you get to drive, and it makes sense because, you know, they don't want some dumbass private fresh out of basic training driving a tank, because you got to learn the tank and learn how it stops, because they stop pretty quick, and, you know, you don't want to bang people around because then they get pissed at you, and, you know.
So, I have to get this disclaimer out the way. We forgot to mention right at the start of the recording that this is a comedy show. Nothing we say here has anything to do with reality. So if we get into anything that resembles reality or like past history of Vaughn's, it's all coincidence. Now that that's out of the way, so you served. You sent me some pictures from Fort Knox, like the Fort Knox. Hold on, let me get that on back here. Fort Knox 92, it says. What is this?
That's there's two hills, Agony and Misery, and they're called that because they make you run road marches with a rucksack. You know, you do road marches with those. But that's the road that we used to take to go out to the ranges, and it goes down like that. It's real steep. And, you know, when there's nobody around, you get on that hill. You can get and I was on the M1 IP, so it only had the 105. And you can get up to about 55. Then you get down to the bottom there where that turn is. And if you play it right, you can kind of drift the turn. You know, that was one thing we used to try and get away with.
And this is the Fort Knox. Tank. This is the same Fort Knox.
Depository.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they tell you it's not.
I used to live in a housing area that was right off the depository. You could look at from my porch. I could look over and see it. And it's funny because they only had like they had a 4-foot fence there. But, you know, it's like, yeah, go ahead, hop it and see what happens.
It's not the fence that's supposed to keep you out. It's everything else, like the military base next door, basically. I remember. It's totally
plain. You know, there's nothing sticking out.
I remember Vice City or one of these Grand Theft Auto games. Even in the game, Fort Knox was hard to get into.
Oh yeah.
But I think the biggest secret about Fort Knox is that there's actually nothing inside. How do you feel about the Federal Reserve?
When I was there, you know, we heard stories like there's no gold. All the gold was spent to pay for Vietnam, stupid shit like that. You know, the only thing in there is aliens or a spaceship. Stupid. I mean, but who knows? I mean, I don't have any idea what would be in there. But they have guards and stuff. But it might just be for show.
We've got some memes. We've got a lot of things to talk about with regards to American exodus over to that Chinese app.
Oh yeah.
The TikTok exodus, and then we've got some Lancet top 100 video of Lancet strikes. By the way, everybody who might be how can I say sensitive to the audio quality? Yes, I'm aware that his audio has noise in the background. We tried to fix it before we started, but that's all we could get, and this is the best that we're gonna have to work with. So that's all there is to it. Yeah. So
And
what do you feel like doing, Vaun? Don't apologize, man. We do the memes first.
Do the memes first.
Let's do this one because how do you feel about Trump and Obama and the whole politics of the U.S. and whatnot?
I mean, I'm kind of like just wait and see. I mean, I like Trump. I voted for him.
Yeah.
And I hope he does the things he's talking about, or some of them.
Half of them
such
even.
A wild card about what's going to happen. I'm just kind of like got to wait and see. A couple days left. Supposedly, there's a big operation planned for the day after.
This is
start the mass deportations.
This is probably going to air. It is the 18th. Here in Serbia as we record this. I think it's the 18th there as well. The point is it'll probably air on the 20th around the time of the inauguration. So what are your expectations for day one? Do you think like America's going to be great again on day one?
No. I think he gets sworn in at 1:20, and then you figure you got the 5 or 6 o'clock news cycle, and I would imagine there'll be a bunch of resignations and haughty statements from people that are leaving. How he's a Nazi and he's a threat to democracy, and you got to resist. But I don't think he'll do a whole lot. I mean, there might be some executive order announcements, but from what I understand, the second day they're going to start that mass deportation. And that should be interesting to see how that starts out, because supposedly it's going to be in Chicago, which is a sanctuary city.
That would be funny to watch.
Yeah, there might be some good streams, that night if you want to watch riots in America. I mean, and seriously, if I see any good links, I will post them so people want to click on them.
Share them in chat. By the way, everyone,
during the BLM stuff, there was tons of streamers. So if you wanted to know what was going on and watch it live, it was like you just watch these guys that had like 8 or 9 screens covering all the big cities, and you could figure out what was going on.
Definitely do send those links in chat later. By the way, everyone, find the Working Brother on Telegram, and then go find the chat of the Working Brother on Telegram. Now, Barack Obama posted this. Happy birthday to the love of my life, Michael Obama. And then RT decided to chime in. Where is my Obama RT? There we go. RT decided to chime in. Guys, if you need an even longer table, you could properly be a part at dinner. All you have to do is ask. So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I mean,
what's your take on the Obama and the legacy that's been,
What you mean from him to Trump?
Yeah. Like the legacy that Obama and now Biden, which is basically Obama, has left in the world, and how like Trump is going to change that, and not only in the world, but within the U.S. as well.
Well, like with the world, I mean, if you look at Obama then Biden, I mean, Trump, you had 4 years of, I guess you could say, somewhat stability. Syria was, they killed ISIS supposedly. And then, everything was kind of calm. You had that Abraham Accords or whatever the hell that was supposed to be. And then, then you get Biden and everything flared back up. So I'd say their legacy is just how much they fucking wrecked the Middle East from, North Africa all the way over to fucking almost Iran. I mean, Iran's on the table. So, but maybe that won't happen now. But you know.
Like you said,
I'd say that's his legacy, is just to fucking totally destroy the Middle East. Because they didn't do anything that made anything better. They killed Gaddafi. You know, remember when Hillary Clinton was like, "Oh, Bashir Assad is such a modern man in the Middle East of, you know, all these backward goat herders," you know, and now, you know, just a couple of years later, he's the devil and we got to kill him. And, you know, I don't know about all the stuff with Gaddafi, you know, but he was supposedly killing radicals and fundamentalists, which is what we were wanting, and then got rid of him too. And you can see how great it is now. But
Syria, you mentioned it. I've got something here. It's not a meme. It's actually news, but it might as well be a meme from a different reality. Because Karim Khan, the Attorney General at the International Criminal Court of The Hague, met in Damascus with the Syrian leader. So there's that.
Well, that means that they didn't commit any war crimes. ICC approved.
Basically.
I saw what you guys were saying about it in the last one, about his name and how fucked up his name is. And
yeah, it's just like a made-up retarded name. Yeah, it's funny. Also, everybody who's new here, hi, welcome. This is a comedy show. We're not eligible for monetization, which is why you can support me down over there in the links below. So yeah, I was gonna get back to you telling me more about your service career and like outline for people who might be like, why and how is this American now supposedly anti-globalist, but he worked and served the U.S. military-industrial complex? Like, why did you go to like be a tool of American imperialism? Explain to the audience.
Okay. Well, I mean, when I was younger, before I joined the Army, you know, I was always interested in military stuff. My dad was a Vietnam vet. I'm sure that's going to make the Vietnamese audience upset. But, you know, he went over there for a year. And, you know, I was always interested in military stuff. And, you know, I wanted to be on the M1 tank. You know, I was in love with the M1 tank. I was obsessed with it to the point I had, you know, simulator games and shit. If you ever want to play a good M1 tank platoon simulator, play M1 tank platoon 2. It's old micropose. But that's a good game. And, you know, when I enlisted, I wanted to be on the M1. And, you know, they tried to get me on the MRLS, and I was like, nope. And then I got my slot, so I went to armor school and basic training. And I don't know. I mean, I was idealistic.
And where was this? Was this in Kentucky? Like, did you do like all this basic stuff with the National Guard, or like how does it work in the U.S.?
No, I enlisted in my hometown, which is in Colorado. And then when you get your orders, you ship out to Fort Knox, and then they in-process you. And I don't know, have you ever seen the movie Stripes?
Nope.
Well, if you ever watch that movie, there's a barracks that Bill Murray and them go into when they get put in the Army are the exact barracks that we came into. So it was kind of funny because it's like a little site now, like a little museum. Like, this is where they filmed the movie Stripes, because it had Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. It was pretty, you know, it was funny for the time. It was one of those 80s goofball movies.
I might have even watched it. I just don't know the name, so I'll definitely look it up after we're done recording and have a look if I have watched it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So it's like a Hollywood place, basically.
Well, that little spot was, and then you in-process. And when I in-processed, the night before, I shaved my head into a mohawk, and it was like real tall. And, you know, it started out real tall during the day. Well, I knew I was going to get my head shaved, so I was like, fuck it, you know, I'm just going to shave something weird. Plus, you know, you can see that, that's me. The one in the glasses, not the one with the mongoloid fake brow. And he's actually a good friend of mine. I still talk to him to this day, so he probably will appreciate it. But yeah,
so how old are you here?
I think 21.
And when is this? Because it's black and white. Like, I don't want to be racist and say this is the 70s, but like, you know, how old are you?
1991. Oh,
all right.
I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 50s now.
Yeah, but it's black and white for effect. It's not black and white because like
it's from my Army yearbook, and those cheap bastards. There's only a few color pictures. You know.
Got it. Got it.
So that's why they're all black and white. But
all right. I didn't know armies had yearbooks. That's interesting. I didn't know armies had yearbooks.
They give you a little graduation book, with some pictures of you getting fucked up and all that, and then the standardized pictures of tanks and stuff. So you got something to show when your little certificate. But yeah, you go there, you in process. Then we did basic training, which is your basic, army training, your basic rifleman, all that kind of stuff. But we're on a tank, so they don't really focus on shooting the M16. And then after you get done with basic training, we stayed at Fort Knox and did AIT, which is your advanced individual training, where you actually get on the tanks and you start training. And that was all during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. We were thinking we were going to be sent there because, the Iraqis were so battle experienced after 10 years of war with Iran. But it didn't work out. So I just hung out at Fort Knox, finished my active duty time at the armor school.
Oh wait, so you were supposed to go for Desert Storm, but you didn't end up going?
No, we just thought we were because it was going on while we were in training, so we just assumed you guys are to be the replacements for going over there. But it ended in 100 hours, so it was over before we graduated, so it didn't matter. And then, I finished up at Fort Knox, and then when I got out, I went back home and joined a guard unit, and then that was I became a helicopter mechanic, and we worked on the Cobra attack helicopters, and we had OH-58 Kiowas and some OH-6s, the little bird-looking helicopters. And we had those for 2 years, and then we transitioned into Hueys, which is the Vietnam-era helicopter. And then we were supposed to get Blackhawks later, but I wasn't there when they got them, so I don't know when they got them. And then that was pretty fun. I joined that unit because my dad had been in that unit, and I knew it existed. Because when I went to go look for guard units, they're like, well, we don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, this is the unit. And they found it, so I got hooked up with them. The funny thing about that unit is it's an attack helicopter detachment, and we had a female commander, and because there was restrictions on women in combat at the time, she wasn't allowed to fly attack helicopters, but she's in command of an attack helicopter detachment.
And that's when you realized you should get the fuck out of the army, huh? Or are you still active service?
No, I got out in like 98.
All right, so a while back.
But I was in during all the bullshit in the guard during like Bosnia and Kosovo and all that. I think we got alerted one time for Kosovo, which I don't even know why they did that, because we had Hueys. And those are like the Vietnam-era helicopters. They don't have any kind of countermeasures or protection. And it's like, you're going to send us to the...
Serbs will know that during the Kosovo campaign, as it was called, the Americans lost several Hueys and Apaches, I believe, in Albania on training exercises when they hit trees. That was off the record, unofficially. I believe that was the attempt to get into.
So that kind of shit right there pisses me off, because it's like they ain't gonna. Oh, here you all go to Serbia and help keep the peace, and they don't tell you what the fuck's really going on. And then they give you these helicopters that are old as fuck. But we didn't go because I guess we didn't have enough manpower, or the readiness rate wasn't high enough, which, this was during the Clinton years, so what do you expect? I mean, they gutted the Army right after Desert Storm all the way up till now. I mean, the only time, every now and then it gets a bump, like from Bush, Trump, but in between, they fucking suck it dry.
But they don't suck it dry of ideas, and really bad ideas.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say in that your last show, when the guy was talking about the Pentagon,
Drago,
that don't know how to fight and shit, and are really bad at it. I was listening to somebody else, I think it was last year, and I think it was around that Ukrainian offensive that happened maybe right before the amazing assault of Krinky. And what was it? What the hell was it? What the hell was I just saying?
The assault, how it failed the Ukrainians, and how they're talking smack, and how NATO commanders basically don't know how to handle troops.
Yeah. The guy was saying that he believed that there were so many civilians in the Pentagon now that these were the guys that were coming up with the operations and overriding the soldiers, because it's a civilian-led government, so they were like taking advantage of that. Because you look at places like Krinky and you're like, who the fuck thought of this? Who thought this was a good idea? I mean, after the first try, you should have figured it out. You think any normal military person would be like, this is suicide, but they kept doing it. And then you hear this story about all the civilians that are in the DOD calling the shots, coming up with operations with no experience. And then if you look at what the Ukrainians has been doing, it kind of makes a lot of sense. And then he says something about it. It kind of makes it seem like there might be something to that. Because you look at all these operations they've done, like Kursk, Krinky. I mean, pick anything. It's always, going down there around Robotny and stuff.
I've got the excerpts from videos that you sent along in chat a while ago, which was you on open mic with DPA. By the way, I'll leave a talk with DPA that I did a long time ago when we still used to talk. Now we don't talk anymore. So here is Vaun. Vaun, I'm going to mute you because your mic is a little loud, especially when you're not talking. How to kill a tank, M1 Abrams.
More effective against like BMPs and lighter vehicles, just because it's able to penetrate that armor better and do more damage as far as igniting the ammunition. You can get a kill on a tank from a side shot. The reactive armor would help defeat the heat round. But, generally an M1 is going to go Sabo on a main battle tank because that's a guaranteed kill pretty much.
This is what I'm talking about. What makes the Abrams so many times more
much
advanced
better
is my question. Yeah.
You could say
is it immune to heat and Sabo?
Well, we have heat, Sabo. There's an impact round. There might, and I think there's another.
If you want to chime in,
there's a new multi-purpose round.
But like generally, like in a tank war.
If you want to chime in, or like if you want me to let it play out, at least.
Well, I mean, that one guy keeps cutting in there, and it's like, they asked this question specifically to the people that were on tanks. But, what they're talking about, like the different rounds, it's like, the M1A1 is an excellent tank. If I was the U.S. military, I would not have made another variant of the M1 beyond, like, the A2. And I don't even really know all the variants, because there's so many stupid ass variants. It's ridiculous. It's like this one has this sight, this one doesn't. This one's got new computers inside, or a generator or some bullshit. So it's this version or that version. But like the basic M1A2 with the little CITV, which is that little R2D2 sight on top, you could have stopped right there with the armor it had, with the depleted uranium. Obviously at this point, in modern war, you're going to have to put a cope cage on it and probably one of those little backpack jammers. That's not going to add a lot of weight. But instead, now we got the V3, which is even heavier and full of more bullshit.
The point is, like, with all tanks, like, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about, like, because, like, the bottom line here, like, what this guy was asking, let's call it that, and what you were answering to was that basically... the warheads on FPV drones are shaped charges.
It's
RPG
like a heat
charges,
round, like the RPG. Yeah.
So
it's
basically.
Good for the top.
But it's going to penetrate basically, regardless of, especially if you're able to place it in places where any tank doesn't have protection, which is like the engine cover, or like we've all seen the what are they called, the fiber optic drones that are immune to electronic warfare, that there's like nothing that you can do against them, and that sneak up on tanks, and like if it hits, you're a tanker, if it hits you in the tracks, you're out, you're like your best option is to leave the tank as soon as possible. Right? If your tracks are disabled.
I mean, and that's another thing too, like with the 31 M1s that were sent by the United States, I had to revise it, because I was thinking they were all gone, but now I believe there might actually still be 1 to 2 left. but the rest of those are gone. I mean, I've seen all.
Oh,
the
you're
pictures.
counting them? You're
I've been
counting
trying to count them. Well, it pisses me off. It's like that's my baby. I hate seeing them burning on the fucking fields. I hate seeing Russians dancing on them. I mean, if I was a Russian, I'd be dancing too because I just got like $150,000 bonus. It's like hell yeah.
I don't know how much the bonuses are, but I was gonna get into that dancing Russians. But I actually wanted to ask you about your hats, a collection of hats that you've got in the background. You've got a Wagner hat, from what I can see, a Trump hat, and a Lacoste. Yeah.
Yeah. I just hang some hats up. Yeah, I'm a fan of Wagner. I really do like their work.
Wagner is a terrorist organization in the United Kingdom and probably in other places as well. And YouTube hates Wagner, and we got demonetized long time ago for mentioning Wagner before it was able to be mentioned. But Wagner has nice hammers.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own perception of the Russian army. And, some of that's because I grew up in the 80s and that's, I was interested in all the military stuff. So you see how the Soviets were and how rigid and stringent and centralized. And then, the Russians come into play and then they're trying to modernize and maybe westernize their styles a little bit, maybe a little more freedom in operation. I don't know how well that was going. Maybe in some of the better units, it was a lot farther along. But then you got Wagner comes in and it's almost like a westernized unit where they have, by outward appearances, I mean, I don't know the internal workings and all the background shit, but inside the Russian military, you've got this unit that's basically got, everything they want, if they don't have it, they hire guys like, hey, can you run an MRLS or a Grad, or can you fly a SC-25? So
basically, yeah. Can you be my private Air Force, please? Yeah,
so they have and they were able to, and the impressive thing is like when Russia needed them to hold the line, they stepped in. Mm-hmm. And they fought, and it was just impressive. I mean, for what I believe the Russian army to be, and then to see them operate. I mean, they're obviously separate, but they're still part of it. I mean, there's probably tons of those guys all through the MOD now, if they're smart.
Exactly. They've been absorbed into the ministries. That was all like a project, basically, I'd say, with the whole Wagner crew. I was going to get to that. So do you believe, as a subscriber, a long time, so have you seen the episodes where we described the Rostov Circus, as I like to call it?
I think I've seen them a while ago. I mean, I don't know. I don't even believe it was a coup.
Exactly.
Or an attempt. I think it was just like, I don't know, blowing off some steam and maybe trying to fool NATO, at the same time.
Do you think Prigozhin is dead, or do you think he's on a Caribbean island somewhere?
I kind of hope he's in Venezuela hanging out.
He's probably in Venezuela. I
do like the videos where they show pictures of guys in Africa from the back. They're like, is this him? Because it's some
right?
old white guy with a couple wrinkles in his neck. I mean, I hope he's still alive, but
I sincerely doubt his plane was shot down over a military training ground that's half a state wide. Speaking of states, for our non-American audience, I want to outline Kentucky. Here we go. This is Kentucky. So people just know that it's more than fried chicken. Is it true? I saw some video. Those videos that you see on the internet where 101 interesting laws that are still in effect. Is it true that in Kentucky you can't eat fried chicken with a knife and a fork? That it is illegal?
No, I've never heard that, but I've seen people do it, so it's obviously not enforced. But yeah, we still have dry counties. We still have dry counties where you can't buy alcohol.
Oh, for real, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about it being stupid.
Yeah, I mean, they have they'll bust VFW, which is veterans in Foreign Legion posts. Driving in liquor so they can have drinks at their place. They always act like they caught Al Capone or some shit, and it's some old Vietnam vet with a couple 6-packs of Busch Light. It's like, let him go. It's like some shitty beer. But which is funny because Kentucky's all about bourbon distillery and whiskey and shit. But you can't drink here.
Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah, and also on Sunday you can't buy alcohol till after 1 o'clock. You got to wait till you get home from church. Then you can go get drunk.
But can you carry? You told me offline. But most important for non-Americans is what are your gun laws like?
Okay, like here in Kentucky, and there's 35 states that are similar, pretty much to Kentucky, but we have constitutional carry, which means you don't, as long as you're not a restricted person like a convicted felon, you can open, and that's if you're a non-violent felon now you can carry in Kentucky. So that's changed, which is weird, but it is what it is. You got to support the Second Amendment no matter what. But since it's constitutional carry, you can go to the state and get a permit so you can carry concealed outside the state with other states that recognize Kentucky's concealed permit, or you can just not get a permit and only carry concealed or unconcealed in the state. And you can carry a pistol. If you're going to open carry, you can carry a pistol, you can carry an AK-47, an AR-15. Obviously you can't walk around like you're getting ready to shoot, but it's not illegal. I mean, you're going to get looks. People will probably call the police, and they might come and talk to you about why you're walking around wearing a Kevlar helmet and a plate carrier and got an AK-47 on your shoulder. But it's totally legal. And I got a little side job at a gas station. We got little gangbanger guys coming in all the time, and they got those short-barreled AR-15s tucked in their their pants and shit. And it's legal. It's kind of scary, but
Do you carry on the job, like when you're working there?
Oh yeah, all the time.
What is that?
Beretta. Beretta 92 FS. It's probably like one of my favorite pistols.
Nice. I was gonna pop this up. This is a friend of yours. You said, where is this?
This is on a range at Fort Knox, and he's standing on the turret of the tank, and he's firing his M16 at some other tanks that were the enemy forces. Mm-hmm. Just being a dumbass, we were like, he's suppressing the tanks with his M16.
All right, and I'm guessing he's firing blanks or training rounds, yeah?
Yeah.
So we saw that one video. Now let's watch this other video where 1 year later you nail some of this stuff a lot better.
Looking at the map, I probably would have gone somewhere closer to Donetsk because it seems like there's less fortifications there the farther you get out.
You're talking about the counteroffensive.
And I think it's where they've lost the Bradleys and the Leopards. But it's the one above like Stopanov or something like that, or in that area. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But if you look at it, it's like they're advancing down this narrow corridor that's in the low ground, and there's Russian positions on both sides of different sizes, and the one in front of them that they're hitting. But if the Russians were to fall back or withdraw, which seems like what they're doing, if you follow that terrain, it literally feeds them down through these defenses, but they're always going to have Russians on either side of them and always in front of them. It's almost like this gap runs along let's just call it like a long gulch. There's the fields above it, and it kind of just, slopes down in there. They're kind of running along that. I mean, so they're getting shot at from all sides, from above, all three sides on the high ground. I almost think it's a trap. I mean,
you nailed it here, man.
You can cut it there, because I just end up repeating myself anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you look at that whole counteroffensive, and you look at the map and the defensive lines, it was like every time you go through a defensive line, you just get caught in this pocket between them. And if they had actually broken through and made any progress, they would have just gone into this gap, which was like a tear shape, where you're surrounded literally almost all the way around. And you're not even I don't even know how far away they would have been from Tomahawk, which was supposedly the, objective. But, that's at the time when they were using storm shadows to blow up, the Naval Library in Sevastopol and, a sub in dry dock. I mean, and I'll give them credit. They hit ships and they did targets, but it's like, we hit the headquarters in Sevastopol. It's like, dude, do you think there's been anybody but a janitor there since the day the war started? They're probably like in bunkers 100 miles away giving orders to the Black Sea Fleet. They're not fucking let's go hang out at the dock. And then the sub that was in dry dock, I mean, yeah, I guess it misses the war, but I guess they're going to fix it. So, but, it's like, I'm thinking you got all these guys pinned down around Robotny and shit getting killed, and they see Su-24s going by, and are you like, yeah, they're going to go hit the artillery that's pounding us, or maybe take out the command center that's directing the counteroffensive against us. No, they're going to go blow up the fucking headquarters in Sevastopol. I mean, it's like they constantly do that stuff. It's like, why aren't you hitting tactical targets with these missiles that would have helped the offensive, since you're not going to, like we were talking about with the mine clearing and stuff, it was like totally inadequate for what they were trying to do. And then, you got a bunch of guys that barely know what they're doing probably, or they're trained on equipment they're not familiar with. I mean, that whole thing was just, and then look what happened around Staromayorsky. They started up there. I remember seeing one night where it was like a horrible bombardment. All you could see was flashes like a disco ball in the distance. And then I never ever heard anything about Staromayorsky again until the Russians started pushing up. And I did remember hearing a Ukrainian guy say that's where battalions go to die. And you never heard shit about it. But it's like, it's the same thing that happened to Robotny. You send all these guys in there, and the Russians are waiting.
How many people? How many people in a battalion?
Well, a normal one's 500 to 600. In Ukraine, it could be as low as 8, apparently.
Yeah, I saw that news the other day.
It's fucking horrible.
I've got a picture here of you with the mayor. Do you want to tell us something about this picture, or why you sent this picture along?
Oh, it's just that's the Democrat mayor of our city, the old one, and he was a dumbass. We call the mayor Bike Lane because he would spend money painting bike lanes. But we had people getting shot. We had the Breonna Taylor riots, all the BLM shit. So I saw him and I took a picture with him because I told my buddy, I was like, can you do the Thug Life, Photoshop for me? So that's really the only reason I took that picture, is just so I could put that shit on there and then have it for a picture.
I wanna get your take on being a tanker in modern war from everything that you've seen in the last 2 years on Telegram and other places, Twitter, I guess. As we watch this compilation of the best 100 Zala kills in Ukraine. Zala, the producer of Lancet, put out this video yesterday or today. So we're gonna watch this and celebrate Trump's victory, right? I hope they don't have any copyright music. I'm probably gonna have to. I'm gonna turn this down and I'm gonna play my music in the background.
Yeah, because you know how YouTube is.
Yeah. So yeah, as a tanker, how do you feel about the proliferation of what are they called?
Drones.
Loitering munitions, technically.
Yeah.
And FPV drones, because these are loitering munitions. These are different than FPV drones. Because this thing can like hover above you for like 2 hours and then come shoot you. You know what I mean? Whereas the FPV drone has to kind of know where you are.
I don't like them. I hate them.
Do you think it makes tanks obsolete?
Nah, well, in some ways, yeah, but probably not. I mean, the thing is, you're just going to have to find ways to protect them, which is obviously, going to, increase the cost. Or I don't think it could increase the cost because, like I said, you could go with basic tanks. Like right now, let's be honest. Would you rather be in an M1A1 that we gave Ukraine with no coke cage or a jammer backpack, or would you rather be in a T-55 with a coke cage and some shit hanging off the side and a jammer? I mean, honestly, I'd take the T-55 because, the M1's probably more survivable for the fire suppression and stuff, but I mean, you've seen the M1s that were driving around in the very beginning with no protection. They got zapped as soon as they saw them. They hunted them down.
Even the Merkavas. Even the Merkavas on the aircraft carrier started wearing cope cages. So, like, that tells you that about cope cages, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is like one thing that really pissed me off, like when I was in the Army, you know, like when you're the loader, you got a machine gun in your hatch. And when you're not firing and loading the gun and you're driving down the road, they have a thing called air guard, which is where the loader sits up in the hatch and maybe even the commander if he's not busy. And he's looking one way with his machine gun, and I'm looking over the rear with my machine gun. And it pisses me off because it's like you don't see these guys. It's like, you know, like that one of those first M1s that got killed around Berdici. It's just tooling around the road, and the drone is just following along, watching it. There's nobody up in the hatch looking around. They weren't shooting. They weren't even looking around, so they obviously weren't in any danger or looking for any enemy targets. And it's like, why don't you have a dude up there watching for these fucking drones? I mean, granted, maybe you can't shoot it down. Maybe you won't get away, but at least you have some warning and you can try to like zigzag or pop smoke. So maybe when they dive at you with the FPV, it misses, but you don't see them do anything. They don't turn on the smoke generator. I mean, if it was me and I saw a drone, I'd be like, pop smoke, flip on the smoke generator, start, you know, turn around and go back into the smoke. Yeah, and try to hide from the fucking thing. I mean, I know there's 20 more coming, and they'll probably get me, but you know, maybe I might have thermal. You know. Yeah, you know, I mean, at least I can get a few feet more to the tree line before I got to jump off and run. You know, right? But they don't do that at all, and the cope cages help, but you know, if one drone doesn't work, you see how they did that M1 where there was one right after the other. Yeah, and I think a problem with the M1 too is when they get hit, that it might set off the fire suppression system, which is halon gas. And if that gets inside the turret, because there's one in the turret and one in the engine compartment, depending on where it gets hit, but they can go off from the shock. So even if it got hit in the engine and it set off the engine one, it might set off the turret.
I just want to take a time out and highlight here. It's okay. Because this coming video, you can see the tandem charge, and I want you to explain to people what not only the shape charge is, but what a tandem shape charge actually is and does. You know what I mean? Here you can see it, and it actually goes, not this one, that might be the next one. There you go, this one. And it goes through the tank. You see here, like how it goes, where's my cursor? There it is. Here it's gone actually through the whole vehicle. And that is the second, or tandem charge. The first one blows a hole, and the second one goes through the hole.
Yeah.
That's what the Lancet is famous for. Let's put it that way. Go on.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, like you said, the first one detonates like the reactive armor, then the second one penetrates. And it's the same with like the... another term for the tandem charge is like a tow missile, and I'm sure they got it on the Cornets too, where you can set it to fire and hit head on, or it top attacks and fires down. So that's also considered a tandem warhead. So it just gives them options on their approach. You know, if you want to hit it head on, or if you want to hit from the top, which is preferable because that's the lightest.
The weak spot, yeah.
Yeah.
But these commercials,
when they go after the M1s and all the other tanks, they always go after the engines in the top.
As an American, how do you feel there's Russian propaganda everywhere around you?
I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like like the videos on Telegram?
I don't know, like everything these days. Isn't everything basically in the West Russian propaganda, including Trump himself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't even really get into all that because, I mean, I try to watch as much stuff, and, you know, I obviously have my own opinions about how things are going and how I think they should be. But, you know, like when people say Russian propaganda anymore or anything Russia, it's like you just roll your eyes because it's like Russia, Putin, Russia, Putin. It's like it's so overplayed. It's like the word Nazi or other N words, you know, that get overused.
Yeah.
No one cares anymore. It's kind of like that. I mean, yeah, there's obvious Russian propaganda, you know, like the recruiting videos and stuff. I mean, if I was a young dude, I'd be like, hell yeah, that sounds fun. Because, I mean, look at their videos. Their recruiting videos, like, you know, the dude's like playing soccer with his buddies, and then he's laying in the field with his girlfriend getting some action. And, you know, then he wakes up and he's in basic training. And then he's got a Mosin Nagant, and he jumps out of a plane and goes and kills Nazis in the snowstorm. And then over here in America, it's like, oh, my mom, they like to scissor, and I shoot Patriot missiles. It's just not inspiring. It's just not inspiring. And China's doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing.
I saw some of those Chinese propaganda videos. They're pretty good, especially with the robot dogs, man.
Make your family proud, make your kids proud.
Have robot dogs go fight for you, control like a pack of robot wolves.
You're not going to see some Chinese. These are my two moms. They fly the J-20. What? You're not going to see that bullshit. But yeah, I mean,
Vaun, how much time have you got?
It's propaganda, but I appreciate it because it's actually pretty good stuff to watch.
How much time have you got? How are you doing for time? Because we're 45 minutes in, and we can either go to the hour, or we can call it a recording and then start another one for another 45 and get into Chinese propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to stop. I'm waiting to see. I don't know. Actually, I do have to stop in about 5 minutes.
All right.
I mean, I could be back in like 10. I could be back in like 10 or 10 minutes. I just got to run my kid over to a place and drop him off.
All right, we'll do that. Let's do a little bit of Ukrainian. There's no Nazis in Ukraine covering up their tattoos.
Yeah, the cover-ups.
Yeah. And I'll play some outro music, and we'll get another picture of you in a Halloween costume here.
Yeah, that's my Libyan police official.
Has nothing to do with the picture. I mean, with the hat in the background. We'll be back soon. Everyone, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to, celebrate the Trump won or whatever. We'll be right back.
I'll message you in a few minutes.
All right, man. Peace out.